Let's not do that. That would be a boring podcast.
It would be pretty boring, I agree.
Welcome to Stargazing, a Stargate gazing podcast. I'm your host, Mary.
And I'm your other host, Kathy.
And each week we review an episode of Stargate alternating between SG-1 and Atlantis.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah. What's new?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nope. Just work, summer classes. That's about it.
What were you applying for?
It was like some job helping to make AI more accurate by like a prompt engineer kind of thing.
Oh, I signed up for one of those too, but I wasn't fancy enough for the specialized $40 an hour.
I did sign up for the specialized $40 an hour. I haven't heard back though, so
Awesome.
they might not have liked my answers. It was a lot of general bio stuff that I don't necessarily know as well because it's been a long time since I took a class about wildlife management, and there was like a few questions about population growth models. And it was weird because they had really very specific questions about gene replication and then very specific questions about population growth models and very specific questions about disparate fields in biology. And I'm like, well, you don't tend to know all of these in detail. So I had to look up a few things. So I'm guessing they probably didn't like how long it took me or something like that because I'm confident all my answers were right. And I've taken a class in population biology or wildlife management was technically what it's called. And I've taken a lot of genetics classes, but I had to look up some equations and stuff. And they might not have liked how long it took me to do that.
Yeah. It took them several days to get back to me,
Fair.
if that helps. But I did like one thing and I was like, this is taking too much time. It's not worth my time to do this. Especially taking like all the qualifications. I'm like, I just did 4 hours of work, but I'm only getting paid like $19 for it. So
I thought it was supposed to be an hourly rate.
it is, but the actual work I was doing for it, not the qualifications, because there are additional qualifications after the first qualification, that was taking too long. And if I add all of that time in, I'm like, this is not worth it. Plus, at least for the generalized stuff, there's not always work available that you qualify for. I'm like, this is not consistent, and I don't think I can do this.
Fair.
But I hope it goes better for you.
Thanks.
Because you have expertise.
Thanks. I've thought about applying to a couple more adjunct positions at another couple other schools, but I don't know that I want to do that.
Are you hard up or are you bored?
Not hard up, but trying to catch up on being behind on retirement, basically.
Fair. Okay, that's
and
fair.
not knowing if Social Security will still be a thing by the time that we're old enough to retire.
Yeah, well, World War III is right around the corner.
This is true. So
maybe we'll all be dead.
Probably won't need to worry about retirement anyway. Yeah, exactly.
To move on to things that are not so gloomy. I've been cleaning out my kitchen since my brother moved out.
Excellent.
It's not very fun, but at least it's
Surely not.
something that needs to be done.
Yes.
But it was very nice to get rid of everything that was... I still have a whole box of stuff I found in my kitchen that is his. I'm like, what did you even take with you,
Is
man?
it like food or like cooking stuff?
A little bit of everything. It's food, it's just storage containers, it's cookie, it's a cooking... oh my God, a saucepan. Wow.
That word should not have been that hard.
No. Like, the thing you hold and it holds things.
Take it to the nearest food pantry and or Goodwill.
I don't want to put effort into this. He's also got to come and get his recliner. So my plan is to put all of his shit in one place and be like, you are responsible for this. Get rid of it.
Gotcha.
And if he doesn't want to, I actually then might put the effort into renting a larger vehicle and hauling that up to his house and leaving it in his front yard.
That seems like much more effort than taking most of it to the local food pantry / Goodwill.
But it'll be a lot more
I
satisfying.
suppose. I'm sure Goodwill would also take his recliner.
Possibly.
And in fact, not HUD, shoot, why am I forgetting the name of the charity that builds houses?
Oh,
It's like a division of HUD, I think, but...
Oh my God. Why can't I think of it either?
I don't know. It was the one that Jimmy Carter worked for
I know
forever.
exactly what you're talking about, but housing, building houses.
Yeah, why is my brain not getting this? Habitat for Humanity. There we go. I had to look it up, and now I feel like an idiot. Habitat for Humanity takes furniture.
I know they do.
Oh, wow. So there's always other options other than driving an hour to where he lives now.
True, but then I get to see Shady Cat.
I guess.
Unless he's not home and I just drop shit on his front yard anyway.
You get to see the cats that you've been complaining about for 2 years that you said that you don't like.
I do like them. They weren't my cats. You know who else had to make a move recently?
Who's that?
All of the people on Tyrannus.
Yes. This is very true. They were forced to do that move against their will.
They sure were. Yeah. I'm sure they'd love to have shit left behind they could go get.
But it's all melted. So,
yep.
Alas.
Six-upper Tyrannus!
What is this episode that we are talking about today?
This is Stargate Atlantis, Season 2, Episode 19, Inferno. We start on the planet of Tyrannus. We get a shot of the outside, which I thought that structure built into the mountain reminded me of one of the Sentinels from The Matrix for some reason, even though it's a giant structure and not a weird, creepy alien thing with tentacles. But
Squiddy sweeping in quick.
I did not know.
It reminded me of that.
Fair. When I think the Sentinel, I think Mass Effect these days.
Sorry, I do not have that reference. I have that reference, though. Team ShRRT is on this planet getting a tour from a very sexy scientist that Rodney will spend this entire episode sadly trying to flirt with in the worst possible way.
True, but Shepard does too, so.
Yes, that is true. They both get their chance there.
Yeah, Shepard's just a little bit more smooth about it than Rodney is, but.
Indeed. She's taken them to their central control room. She also lets them know that the whole thing is basically beyond their science. So they're just kind of living there and kind of like Atlantis. They're just figuring it out the best they can. Although they don't have a Rodney and a Zelenka there, I guess. So makes it harder.
Indeed. It would seem.
She calls her own skills rudimentary, but Shepard's like, don't worry. It took Rodney a long time to figure stuff out. And he's like, I know what's going on with ancient technology, but Shepard says he's blown up entire planets.
You blow up one planet.
Yeah.
One time. They never let you live it down.
No. In the control room, they are introduced to the Chancellor, Lycus. Lycus thanks them for answering their distress call. They said they had been trying to dial a bunch of different planets and gotten no responses. But finally, Atlantis came to their rescue, maybe. They need help because their shield generator is having some problems, and as they already mentioned, they don't necessarily have the know-how to fix it. They weren't able to find any instruction manuals. So Rodney's ready to get to work. I liked at this point, he had his tablet Velcroed to his back, and he just rips it out and is ready to start working. I just thought it was kind of a fun flourish.
Agree.
So, yeah. While he's getting started, they are going to continue their tour with the rest of Team ShRRT, and that's what they go to do.
They do. Somewhere else in this complex, Lycus takes the rest of the team out of an elevator. Shepard mentions that his ears just popped. It turns out that they are deep underground, and there was this huge system of corridors and tunnels built throughout the facility. And so it was exploring those tunnels that they managed to find this place that they're currently in, this big, giant cavern. And then all of a sudden, there's an earthquake.
No.
We get a quick flash of the control room where Rodney runs for the doorway and stands under it for a second, looking very nervous. I can't blame him, though.
No.
Taylor asks Lycus what that was, and he just brushes it off as just a tremor. Apparently, it's a thing that happens all the time, so he wasn't worried.
Explain again how sheep's bladders may be employed to prevent earthquakes.
Back up with Rodney and sexy scientist Norina. I don't remember if we said her name before, but
I forgot to.
Yeah, her name is Norina. And she has no idea what he's doing standing in the doorway, but he says that that's just protocol. He stumbles his way through an explanation, trying to make himself sound braver than he was really being. But he was being practical, though, to be fair. Trying to get someplace safe in an earthquake is not a bad idea. So,
no.
Yeah. He said it was for the sake of the civilians. Of course it was. Back down underground, Lycus says that this is the main hangar. Shepard asks for what, but Lycus says that the mere description would be inadequate. So they open a door, and then there is a giant, ancient spaceship.
It's only a model. Shh.
And it's huge, even compared to the ships that they've got, like the Daedalus. It is much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And John is very excited to see it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then credits.
Yay!
Finally credits. ShRRT has returned to Atlantis to apprise Dr. Weir of the situation. He's very excited to tell her about the Aurora-class warship they found there. Dr. Weir wants to know why their sensors didn't pick it up like they picked up the Aurora, and he says it's damaged, probably from war, like all things in this galaxy seem to be. He is not sure if it can be repaired because they only have just found out about it, and the scientists there don't really know how to deal with the ancient technology. Dr. Weir obviously wants Rodney to have a look at the ship, but ShRRT does say that they need to get their shield generator looked at first so they can build some goodwill. And Dr. Weir thinks that is a great idea, and then maybe they could get the ship from them. That would be so cool.
They can't use it anyway.
Yeah. Just like those kids with their ZPM.
That was a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's always totally different every time.
Well, the kids with the ZPM, that shield was keeping them alive.
I know.
This ship is not keeping anyone alive if they don't know how to use it.
That is true.
Or fix it when there's issues.
At least they're trying to, they're talking about negotiating for it instead of just being
Just taking it, yeah.
take. Yeah. ShRRT says he's going to head back now to make sure Rodney's not distracted by sexy Norina. So that's about it.
Yeah. And then we are back with Rodney and Norina, and they are continuing to do some work on, I don't remember exactly what it is that they're trying to work on here, but I think that they're just trying to optimize shields and stuff like that. Basically just figure out how their computer systems work and that sort of thing, I think is what Rodney is mostly trying to do for them. He is looking at their shield schematics or something about the shields on his tablet, and he says that it would normally require a 0-point module, but this one is apparently operating on geothermal energy alone, so that's unique and also important.
Yes.
Norina says that, yes, there's an enormous amount of heat below the surface. She goes on to say that she had noticed some fluctuations in the shield strength. On occasion, she overrode the alarms and made some adjustments. That doesn't seem like a great way to handle that, by just turning off the alarms that are trying to tell you that something is wrong and then forcing it to output more. That all seems bad. She then says that the lights began blinking after she did all of that, and she couldn't figure out what that meant either. ShRRT comes in and asks Rodney what's going on. He was just running some diagnostics. ShRRT threatens to call Zelenka in if he can't figure out what's going on with their shields and electrical fluctuations. But Rodney is, of course, incensed by that implication and wants to know why ShRRT's back here so soon anyway. But ShRRT says that Dr. Weir wants to talk to the Chancellor, so he brought her back so that they could talk in person about establishing relations. At this point, Rodney cuts ShRRT off and starts talking to Norina about their generator log because he has discovered that they have been running the shield continuously at maximum power for over a year. And that's bad. She says when the device that they are currently doing analytics on was activated, the long-range scanners told them that there was a Wraith ship nearby, or maybe a couple of different types of Wraith activity nearby. So the Chancellor told her to increase their strength and to keep them up permanently, which is bad because Rodney says that the Ancients did not design them to be run continuously, especially not at maximum capacity. So it's really been draining the system, and that's why they're having some of the issues that they're having with their power fluctuations and lights flickering and all that.
We had that light switch installed for you so you could turn the lights on and off. Not so you could throw light switch raves.
He says that the shields are for emergencies only. He's getting very pissy at this point and starting to get rude with her. He says when she shut down all of the alarms, she apparently also overrode all of the fail-safes. So even though the shield should have shut itself off at some point, it didn't. And so all of that is bad because it's been over-draining the geothermal energy that it's been relying on. And the reason that that is bad is because that geothermal energy is coming from a volcano underneath them that has long been dormant, but somehow this draining of geothermal energy has made that volcano not be dormant anymore.
A volcano is turning nature into a nightmare.
I don't know if that's a thing. I'm no geologist, but that's what's going on. So they've reactivated this super volcano that is sitting directly under the city.
Oops.
And yes, that is bad. ShRRT asks if that means that things are going to get worse. And Rodney says he can safely say that things are going to get, and then he can't come up with any better word, so he says worse. Yes.
Silly. But bad. Very,
Yes.
very,
Generally
very
not
bad.
good to have a city sitting on top of an active volcano. And not like
No.
on the rim of it, but like inside of it.
like, yeah.
In the caldera specifically. That is a bad place for a city. Which begs the question of why they built it here anyway, because I know that it was dormant, but dormant isn't always permanent.
That is true. We don't get to know the answer to
No,
that.
I think at some point they said that it was expected to probably stay dormant for maybe 100,000 years, but that still seems bad.
Yeah. I don't know. They didn't, yeah. It's not, they're not thinking super, I mean, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, my thoughts went everywhere and then went
Great.
nowhere. And now it's over.
Fantastic.
Elsewhere, Dr. Weir and Lycus are doing their negotiation thing. Dr. Weir says that her people are seeking to establish relations with all civilizations throughout the galaxy. And Lycus says, us too. He says people from other worlds have chosen to come there to seek refuge from the Wraith because they've, got that big-ass shield in a cool city. Dr. Weir says they're interested in cultural exchange as well as security and trading. And, by the way, you have that ship, which he knows and is aware that she wants.
Of course.
She offers to maybe repair it, and then they could set up some kind of deal where they just get to use it. How about that? Lycus wants to know why he would hand over something that probably possesses the capability for great destruction to them. And Dr. Weir says, this isn't a threat, but we already have that kind of destructive power. So, don't worry about it.
That's definitely not the only reason I'm here, because we don't really need it that much.
Yeah. It would just be cool to have.
I would like a giant spaceship also.
Me too. We could really use one.
Right, definitely.
Especially if we could beam some people off and then beam them into the sun.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
That'd be amazing. ShRRT at this point radios to Weir to let them know there's a problem. They're going to want to come down to the control room and see what that's all about. She asks what kind of problem, and then there's another tremor. So,
Yep.
That's the kind of problem he means, he says.
And then we are back in the control room. Dr. Weir and Lycus have joined them. Dr. Weir says she doesn't see any volcano. Rodney clarifies that it's because you're literally standing in it right now. It's not off in the distance. We are in it. He says when you think of regular volcanoes, you think of places like Mount St. Helens or Kilauea, but this is a super volcano, which he likens to Yellowstone National Park. So the entire caldera is over 50 miles wide, and there is a massive sea of molten rock just beneath the surface. So all of that is bad. They talk about the fact that even though it was dormant, could still erupt every several thousand years, oftentimes hundreds of thousands of years, he says, between blasts. So he's guessing that's why they decided to build it here, even though, as we were just talking about, it seemed unwise. And so they thought that they would just have tons of energy, not have to use any ZPMs for it, and they could just run the shield, and it'd be great. But it is no longer great. Because, as Rodney clarifies, it wasn't meant to be run continuously, and that did destabilize the whole volcano. And so the pressure of the magma chamber is increasing, and it's only a matter of time until this thing erupts and the whole city is lost. And that is bad.
Oops.
It's expanded over 40 miles, apparently, and it's increasing. And no, there is no way to stop that.
Yikes.
When Dr. Weir asks. And apparently there's already a rift that has started opening. So it just keeps getting worse and worse as Rodney delivers more information and detail about what he has discovered. ShRRT asks if there's any way that they can relieve the pressure somewhere else. Rodney doesn't understand why ShRRT thinks there's a military solution to everything. But no, they can't relieve the pressure in any way. Blowing up something or blowing a hole in the ground a distance away won't be good enough. The whole thing is going to go. They need to evacuate, and they need to do it pretty much right now. They really don't have a lot of time. They have to evacuate the entire city. Dr. Weir asks if there's anywhere else on the planet that they can help relocate the people to, but Rodney says no, because this volcano blast is going to be that big that it's basically going to make the entire planet unlivable for a very long time. It's going to obliterate half of this content. And then, of course, there's going to be the after effects to the climate after that. So they need to get everybody off the planet entirely. It's going to be a very long time before anyone can ever live here again, if ever.
Yikes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lycus excuses himself, presumably to go start organizing that, although he is believing these strangers pretty readily. I mean, I guess that's good, but if you've been living here for I don't know how long, and then somebody suddenly comes along and says, you need to evacuate the city now when you've spent your whole life there, I don't know that I would be that ready to buy it.
Yeah, I mean,
If I didn't necessarily understand the science or technology they were using to try to convince me of that, I guess. I mean, it's one thing here where scientists tell you things and we know that the science is established, but when people from a completely different planet with completely different scientific backgrounds and technology are coming to tell you something, I feel like that's different than when scientists here are telling us things.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they just need their president to get on social media and tell all the residents of a city to evacuate without saying anything else about it.
Yeah.
No reason. Just
That's-
kidding. Ha ha.
Nobody knows what I'm going to do.
No.
Anyway, it is a good thing that Lycus is listening to them because the Atlantis people are not trying to pull anything over on him.
No.
This is going to go very badly. So it's good that he was listening to them and was starting to get the evacuation organized.
He'll have his moment later where he sort of side eyes Weir a minute, but yeah.
He does tell a guard to watch them carefully as he leaves the room.
That's true.
So I'm guessing he's going off to at least maybe get a little bit of verification of his own first before he starts that, but he's at least taking them semi-seriously at this point.
And actually what he's doing is pouring himself a drink.
Yep.
He just needs a moment here.
Yep.
Dr. Weir is followed behind, though, and he does invite her in to talk. She continues to try to convince him that McKay is the finest scientist she knows, and he's like, I don't know you, so I wasn't looking for you to tell me to leave my planet. I just wanted you to fix my field generator. Come on.
But he definitely seems to be taking it seriously again, hence I'm assuming this is why he's drinking, because he's believing what they're saying, even though he doesn't want to.
Yeah, and he doesn't really have time to have all of this doubt because more earthquakes happen. So they rush over back to the control room to find out if everyone's okay and what's going on. This one was big enough that people took some actual physical damage in some cases. There's a guy with a head wound. Dr. Weir says she'll call Dr. Beckett in.
We babies.
Rodney says hurry because the hydrothermal vent has opened in the vase.
Great.
Yeah, so the ground is literally going to erode beneath them, he says.
Yeah.
Yep. ShRRT says, we've got to evacuate now. Weir invites them all to Atlantis. And she promises that even if they weren't there, this would still be happening, so they may as well go.
Yes.
So he is like, all right, well, let's do it. Time to evacuate.
Yeah. At least now they have a good place to go to. I wanted to know how many people they have here and how long they've been established on this planet.
good
Have they
question.
always lived here?
I don't know.
I kind of got the impression that they didn't, because if they'd been here a long time, I would think that they would have hopefully had a better grasp of the technology by now if they'd had decades to study it.
Probably. I mean, that would be my guess, but at the same time, I think we've seen before where the ancients are treated much more reverently here than where they're not really known in Earth's galaxy. So maybe they were maybe for decades or generations, people were afraid to touch anything or go near things. Who knows? We just don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I do wish we had more answers about this, but I feel like we're probably never going to get that.
Probably not.
Not surprisingly, things don't go well for this place.
No.
Sometime later, the people from this planet, this is called Tirana, so the people from Tirana are arriving at this base-type complex where all of these events have been occurring. Beckett comes in from the gate, which is nearby, so he's going to head off to help the people that are already wounded. Apparently, the person that needs the most help is the technician in the control room, so that's not great. And they're also bringing in more people from a settlement that was nearby outside, presumably still within the 50-mile wide caldera. Taylor is there and asks what she and Ronan can do, and she tells them to go help Colonel Shepard with the flow of evacuees, and she and Lycus are going to handle the arrival on the other end. So they're going to coordinate the actual transporting through the gate. So she just needs help getting people there to the base and to the gate. In the control room on Tyrannus, Rodney is there dialing the DHD. Beckett comes in to help the technician that is there. Lycus and Dr. Weir head through the gates to go back to Atlantis so that they can help coordinate from that side. They are also taking some people from Tyrannus with them, so it's not just the two of them, but there's a whole group of people that they're taking too. And then Rodney radios to ShRRT to say that the first group is on the way and asking how the next group is going and when they're going to be there. He says that they're on the way, basically. And then there's another earthquake, and that is bad.
Indeed. Very bad.
Yeah, the people that ShRRT was shepherding were outside the facility on their way to the gate. Worth mentioning that the gate is actually not in this facility. It is outside. And so Rodney tells ShRRT to get those people back inside as quickly as possible rather than heading for the gate. I noticed that the gate had not left a swoosh mark. It was embedded like a few feet into the ground, and when they showed it open, there was no swoosh mark.
Yeah.
Where it should have vaporized the rocks in front of it, but it hadn't. Anyway, Rodney calls Atlantis and tells them to raise the shield immediately, and it's a good thing that he does that because the next thing that we see is the gate being engulfed in magma, and that magma would have just poured right through into the Atlantis control room if he hadn't done that, because we do get a view of things from the Atlantis control room. Dr. Weir and Lycus come through, and there's a bunch of people behind them, and then there's a bunch of splatting noises against the shield that has been put up, thankfully, just in time.
Yeah.
Dr. Weir asks why that's up, and Zelenka is there. He says he doesn't know, but that Rodney gave the order. They have no idea what all of the splatting noises are that they're hearing hitting the shield. They try to dial back, and of course, they can't. They can't establish a wormhole, so whatever the issue was, it seems to be on their end, meaning the Tyrannus end, not the Atlantis end. The Atlantis side of things is working just fine. Even though Lycus says, there's nothing wrong with our gate. That is not true, because your gate does not exist anymore. Chucknician clarifies that they are still just getting nothing. Lycus accuses Dr. Weir of orchestrating this and luring them onto Atlantis to hold a bunch of people hostage in exchange for the warship. But of course, Dr. Weir assures him that that is not at all what happened.
It sounds like someone's met the Janai.
Right? Yeah. Dr. Weir promises they're going to figure out what's going on, even though Lycus continues to complain he's not going to be cut off from his people. But Dr. Weir reminds him, well, some of our people are there too, and it's like our important people, like Rodney, ShRRT, and Beckett, who are like the three most important people on the base besides Dr. Weir. So all of that's bad. Not to mention Taylor and Ronan and everybody, but you know, I just mentioned ShRRT because he's in charge of all the military side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah. On Tyrannus, ShRRT has returned to the control room and wants to know what happened. So they tell him, Stargate's gone. Rodney is like, we are so screwed because they don't have a Stargate and no way to get in touch with anyone off this planet.
Nope.
ShRRT is trying to get him to calm down, but Rodney's having a freak out. But then ShRRT reminds him that the Daedalus exists, which does finally bring him back to out of panic mode.
Right.
Beckett asks, what if the volcano erupts before the Daedalus comes? ShRRT's like,
don't ask these questions, Beckett.
I know, come on.
There's literally nothing you can do about that.
That is true. Except they've got a ship in the hangar and they've got a Rodney McKay. So ShRRT thinks maybe they've got a backup plan here. Because, as ShRRT says, he's discovered that Rodney's pretty good under the threat of impending death.
He is, yes.
Which Rodney's like, oh yeah, you got a point.
Yeah, Rodney was about to get angry that he was being put in this position again, but then he was like, oh, yeah. It was amusing.
Yeah, they head to the ship.
And then we're on the ship in a control room of some sort. Norina is there helping Rodney out as best she can. And Rodney manages to get primary power online. So that's good, at least that it powers up. That's always an important first start to any vehicle, turning it on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Taylor wonders if there are any more ships like that. And Ronan mentions the fact that if there were, then the Wraith would have a serious fight on their hands. But for now, they've just got the one. Rodney's got life support back up and running, or at least he will in a few minutes. So that's also good. We got the most important thing, which is turning it on, and then the second most important thing, which is not dying while it's turned on. And apparently it has a name. He has realized that the ship is called the Hippophoralcus, which is a mouthful.
Yes.
And apparently that was the name of an ancient general of some sort. But ShRRT does not want to call it that. And again, they talk about the fact that they can't call it the Enterprise.
The name of my ship is the Lollipop, and it's a good ship.
Then they decide they're just going to name it later, because right now is really not the time to be arguing about what the name of this ship should be. Thankfully, it turns out that the ship is large enough that they can fit everybody in the settlement if they had to. So that is very good. Hopefully they won't have to, though, because hopefully the Daedalus will get here to help them get people off the planet before that becomes necessary.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of the Daedalus, it is there. And it did get there before the whole volcano erupted. Caldwell calls down to let them know that he is there.
I'm right underneath you. I'm taking a bubble bath.
But it is hard to get the signal through because there's a lot of interference. Although they're able to at least talk to him a bit for now, they're going to try to get the signal boosted if they can. But of course, that gives Rodney yet another thing that he needs to work on in addition to just getting this thing functioning and hopefully flying. Caldwell hasn't found any signs of life in the base itself. So they're assuming that this part where they are now must be shielded in some way. It is pretty deep under the rest of the base. Caldwell has detected some other life signs in various other places. He says when ShRRT tells him what they need the most help with is evacuating everybody off of the planet. Caldwell says that from what he can see, it's going to take at least 4 trips. Taylor thinks they should be able to squeeze more in there, but Caldwell reminds her it's not a matter of space, but it's a matter of life support. Which is an excellent point.
Yes.
They don't know if they have time for 4 trips, but they're going to try their best to make it work. For now, the tremors have stopped, so they're going to try to start evacuating some of the people that are out on the surface in the village. Meanwhile, Rodney and ShRRT are going to stay here and work on what they're calling their Plan B, which is getting this other ship up and running, which, again, could fit everybody if they can get it to work. ShRRT decides to call it the Orion, saying it's a sister ship to the Aurora. Rodney doesn't like it, but doesn't say anything. And so that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep working on the Orion while Caldwell works on evacuating as many people as he can to try to make sure that if they don't get the ship fixed in time, that they can at least save as many people as possible.
Yeah. Go team.
Woo. Break.
Yeah. Out in the settlement, Taylor, Ronan, and Beckett have arrived. Beckett is helping people who are wounded. He has already sorted people into first groups and later groups based on their wounded status. So the most wounded will go out in this first trip. Beckett is concerned about the amount of time it's going to take for the Daedalus to get back and forth and that they'll need to do 4 trips. He seems doubtful that they will last that long.
Yeah, 12 hours per trip, apparently, for the round trip.
But what else can they do?
Right.
So they gather the first group together and have them beamed off. Caldwell takes them and presumably they are on their way back to Atlantis.
Caldwell calls to Dr. Weir to let them know at Atlantis that he is heading back with the first wave of refugees. Dr. Weir makes sure that they're going to be ready by the time that they get there, especially with all of the medical support that they're going to need for that. Lycus asks what's going to happen to them once they've managed to evacuate the city, what's going to happen to everybody. And Dr. Weir says they're welcome to stay in Atlantis for as long as they'd like, and they can help them eventually find a safe and suitable planet. Lycus asks what if it's all just a false alarm, but Dr. Weir is not at all convinced that that is the case.
No.
And then Zelenka comes in and interrupts their conversation, but he says it's important, and that they have a hive ship on the long-range scanner. So that's bad. They did know that the Wraith were going to be coming back at some point, now that the Wraith know that Atlantis still exists. It's apparently 3 weeks out, so they do still have some time. And it is only 1 so far, but it's still very bad.
Yeah, that'll be fun for next episode. Probably, I'd assume.
Most likely.
On the, I guess I have to specify which ship, since there's multiple ships in this episode.
Yes.
On the Orion, Rodney is still working. Narina says she has learned a lot from him these last few hours, and maybe she could study under him one day. That'd be great. She would love to learn more. Rodney is like, cool, yeah, but we have to get off this ship. This is all just a weird, like, Rodney trying to, I don't know, react to the pretty lady.
Yeah.
There's another earthquake. Rodney says it's a lot stronger than the previous ones. It was big. Out in the settlement, Beckett and Tayla are looking outside from the building they're in, and they are seeing ash coming down. It's just like snow, right?
It does look like snow. Harmless, like a little light snow.
Yeah. Tayla wants to know if that means the volcano will erupt soon, but Beckett really doesn't know. He says he doubts it, and when it goes, we'll know. They hear behind them Ronan having a disagreement with some agitated villagers who have decided they're just gonna flee.
Run away! Run away!
Flee to where?
Yes, that is the question the team puts to him.
Yeah.
Because they still have several hours until the Daedalus returns, but this guy thinks they can outrun the eruption.
Even if they do, they will have no food because of what is essentially not a nuclear winter, because this isn't nuclear, but basically the same kind of thing.
He thinks if they just walk for a day, though, they'll get to the river. 2 days later, they'll be at the sea and totally safe from the lava. And they are like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You're going to die if you do this. But I think that those people are determined. But the team keeps trying to convince them otherwise.
They do. Because anyone that doesn't leave the planet is just going to die one way or the other. ShRRT and Norina have gone back to the control room on the base. They're trying to get more people that are hiding in there, out of there, and onto the ship. They look out the window and realize it's getting way worse. They really need to try to get off the planet sooner, and it does not seem like they're going to have enough time to wait for the Daedalus to do 4 trips. In the Orion control room, Rodney is still working. ShRRT calls down to him and tells him about the new vent that he and Norina just saw opening up, which is bad. There's a lot more ash going into the air, and those fissures, those vents are heading towards the settlement. So the settlement's going to basically fall into the magma soon too, which is very bad. They definitely don't have time to wait for the Daedalus, is his conclusion. He wants to know how the engines are coming, but Rodney says they are not even close. So ShRRT, being the optimist that he is, says, well, I guess we're all going to die. And then Rodney gets mad at him for doing that on purpose, making it sound like the situation is hopeless, because ShRRT knows that will make Rodney angry enough to work faster. ShRRT sarcastically says, yeah, that's what I'm doing. But then when he gets off the radio, he tells Norina, no, he's definitely going to have him fixed now. So yes, that was exactly what he was trying to do, even though he wasn't honestly admitting it and was being sarcastic about it. It was amusing.
Yes.
Out in the settlement, Dr. Beckett is trying to get everybody's attention and tells them that there's been a change of plans and that they all need to go and get aboard the Orion. They cannot wait here for the Daedalus to come back. That is not going to happen because the conditions are deteriorating rapidly. So Ronan and Tayla are trying to help as well, getting everybody organized and getting them to the base so that they can all get on the ship. Vonos, the same person before that was trying to just run away to go to the ocean, wants to know why they didn't just get on the ship in the first place, and Dr. Beckett clarifies it's because they don't have functioning engines on it, so they didn't know if they would ever be able to actually use it to get everybody off the planet. But now they have no choice because it's either hope for the best on the ship or die. There is no other option.
And yet.
Yeah.
Vonos.
And yet Vonos, of course, is going to continue to argue that, yes, they do need to leave, but not to go to the ship. They need to just go and follow that river that he was talking about before, because the air is going to be clear beyond the river, of course. But of course, Dr. Beckett's like, no, it's definitely not going to be. The cloud is going to stretch for miles. Ronan gets into trying to be his intimidating self and tells them, yeah, no, you're definitely all going to die out there. You need to come with us to the Orion. And Tayla, of course, is trying her best to convince everybody else as well that it would be literal suicide to try to go to the river instead of to the Orion. Vonos goes ahead and walks out into the rain of ash, and a bunch of people follow him. So presumably we're never going to see them again.
Yep.
But there are still a lot of people left that are going to stay with Tayla and Dr. Beckett and Ronan. And so they lead the way down to the tunnels on the way to the ship.
Yeah. At least just saves the people who want to be saved.
Yes.
On Atlantis, Dr. Weir is talking to Lycus. He wants to know if she knows which of these stars in the sky is Tyrannus, but she does not. He's impressed with Atlantis, he tells her, and he apologizes for being so suspicious and doubtful.
I mean, he was right to be.
Yeah, she's like, and she does say that I understand how you feel, or how you must feel.
We've seen many occasions where either at SGC or here at Atlantis, they were not suspicious enough. So
yeah, he really thought the shield was going to save them, and man, was he wrong, because that did not work out at all.
Nope.
And Weir promises they're going to save as many people as possible, which is what they're still trying to do. Underground, they've been moving people through tunnels back towards the Orion. ShRRT runs into them, and he wants to know where Tayla and Ronan are. They're still working to get more people through back in the village. He orders Beckett to keep going with these people, while ShRRT helps herd these people as well. He tells them not to panic, and there's plenty of room.
Yes.
While an earthquake again happens, which is,
many earthquakes.
So many earthquakes.
Yep. In the Orion control room, we are, of course, seeing the ship shaking as well, because, again, another earthquake is happening. Rodney calls to ShRRT and says that he's got the atmospheric sensors online, and he is reading dangerously high levels of sulfur dioxide spewing into the air. So that's bad. The air is going to be rapidly too toxic to be breathing, and so people need to get to the tunnels. They cannot be out on the surface anymore. They need to get them into the base and underground sooner rather than later. So ShRRT's going to pass that along to Tayla and Ronan and everybody else. He asks how the engines are going. Rodney is still working on it, though, and he does not have it fixed just yet. So ShRRT calls to Tayla in the settlement. She's coughing because the toxic air is already starting to get there. And he tells her about the toxic gas venting into the atmosphere, which she's like, yes, I kind of figured that already. So apparently there is a tunnel underneath the settlement. They don't have to go overland to get to the base. They can just go into the tunnel to get to the base instead. And that is what they're going to do. So they're going to still work on getting to the base, but they will do so through the tunnels, even though it sounds like it might take a little bit longer that way, but that's what has to happen. Ronan found one family still remaining at the edge of the village, and he's coming back with them. So they're not together now, but it sounds like he's pretty close.
Yeah. ShRRT returns to the Orion control room, lets Rodney know that Beckett and Norina are working on getting people on board. Then an alarm beeps, and more fissures, Rodney reports, have just opened up by the base. And one of the lava flows covered the hangar directly above them, 30 feet thick. Great. So ShRRT's like, is the door gonna hold? Rodney's like, I don't know, maybe. But we have an even bigger problem. If the engines aren't fixed, we're not gonna be able to get out of here, and we're just gonna die horribly anyway.
Yeah. That's terrible.
It's pretty terrible.
Yeah. Tayla is still back in the settlement, holding the door open in the barn. She's waiting for Ronan before she's going to leave. She calls to ShRRT as she's waiting, and that's when she sees Ronan coming, so that's good. He's made it. But unfortunately, the tunnel apparently is blocked, so that big lava flow that blocked the hangar door is also blocking the tunnel that was going to get them to the city, and it is definitely not safe to go overland because it's too toxic, so they basically have to wait here. There's no tunnel, and they cannot go out with all of the toxic air and ash and everything that is falling outside. They have to just wait here and hope that maybe the Daedalus can come back in time, or that they can fix the Orion and come and get them.
You shall not pass!
Tayla's been trying to call ShRRT to let him know that they have lost their escape route, and she's not able to get in touch with him.
On the Orion, ShRRT announces it's time for a military solution, and maybe they can use some drones to blast through the hangar door. And Norina's like, the molten lava will fall directly on us, destroying us.
Yeah.
But then Rodney's like, maybe I can get the shields operational. He thinks he can do that. And then maybe once they're operational, it'll provide enough protection to, and then, he gets into his Rodney mode, so he's not going to keep explaining to them what's going on.
Yeah. Too busy Rodneying.
Yeah, he's just going to start Rodneying.
Yeah, can't talk Rodneying.
Exactly. And go away, basically.
Yes.
Which annoys ShRRT, but is exactly what ShRRT wanted, so whatever.
Yes. Then we're back in the barn again. Hopefully there was nobody in the tunnels when it collapsed.
Yeah.
We don't get an answer about whether or not that had happened, so I'm going to assume that they were not there and that they had made it to the ship, that they had all made it to the ship with the exception of this last family that Ronan had just come in with.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, because we didn't see anyone else in the barn with Taylor before. So I'm going to assume she just kind of sent everyone on ahead and that there was enough time. Let's go with that.
Yes.
So everyone's just sitting there in the barn, looking tired and coughing. No one's feeling too great for obvious reasons. This barn is not airtight, but it's still better to be in the barn than it is to be outside. Ronan and Taylor are not sounding good as they're having this conversation because, again, they're breathing toxic air. Ronan asks Taylor what they're going to do. He can't just sit around here waiting to die. Maybe they can make it back to the base on foot, but Taylor reminds him, no, there's absolutely no way we can get there on foot. It's too far with too much toxic air. They just need to stay here, lay low, not exert themselves, and maybe they can last a few minutes longer than they would if they were outside walking around. Back on the Orion, Dr. Beckett is there helping the last of the refugees that are coming down the hallway get onto the ship. He's basically just directing traffic out there. ShRRT comes up and asks how they're doing. And he says that there should be one more group of refugees coming aboard now, which is presumably the one that we just saw passing him by. ShRRT asks about Taylor and Ronan, but Beckett says that last he knew they were helping one last family, and he has not seen them since then. So this is when ShRRT finally tries to call Taylor. She's been trying to call him, but he tries to call her, and of course he does not get a response. So he runs off to do something else.
Yeah. Taylor and Ronan still sitting out there, just waiting, because that's all they can do. The family apparently is in worse shape even than Taylor and Ronan. She says they are alive, but barely. Laying down, just kind of like being weak and barely there. And she says, maybe we should have made a run for it on foot. And he says, no, you were right. And as you said, as long as we can breathe, there's still hope. And then they're beamed away.
Yay!
To the Daedalus, which has finally returned.
Yeah. Huzzah!
Woo!
It's apparently been 12 hours.
Yes. Taylor says they're grateful. Caldwell says, you were the only people whose life signs we could detect, so where is everybody else? Ronan explains that the rest of the people were going to be in the base, which Caldwell is still annoyed because the base is still shielded and he still can't detect anyone and he can't beam anyone out. Taylor says they were going to try to put everyone on the Orion and see if maybe they could get the ship to fly, but they don't know what's happened. They can only sit and wait and watch.
Yep. They do also tell him there really wasn't a choice. They had to be in the base because the air was too toxic, basically.
That is true.
They didn't think that
they're like, let's go
the Daedalus was going to get... The Daedalus would not have been back in time to save everybody. So even if they'd waited out in the open, he would only be able to take like a third of the remaining people that were still left.
Let's play a trick on Caldwell and just go hide in the base.
Just hide. Yeah.
I'll never know. It would be so funny.
So Caldwell radios to Dr. Weir, and he tells her, we don't know what's going on. They're all somewhere in the base, maybe alive, maybe not. He can't really report anything because they have no readings. They have no idea what's going on inside the base or the shielded hangar that everybody is in. Can't detect any life signs, can't beam anybody out. So they're basically just going to wait a bit. Caldwell is pissed at ShRRT for not staying on the surface anyway because he says they could have saved at least some of the remaining population, but ShRRT, being stubborn as he is, wanted to save all of them, which, yeah, I'm on ShRRT's side for that one.
Caldwell, I want to like you so much sometimes, and then you make it so hard.
Yeah.
Stop being such a dick.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous because if he's already taken one round of people and could only take one more, then they would have lost half of the settlement if ShRRT hadn't done this. So, yes, it was risky, but at least they had the chance to save everybody in this case. Dr. Weir tells him to stay as long as he can, just to see what happens, see if there's anything that they can do to help.
Bear witness to the giant volcano explosion. I think I'd want to watch that too. I mean...
Yeah, Hermiad's watching the situation and says the volcanoes are about to erupt, so if it erupts and they don't hear anything from anybody, then they'll know for sure that there's nothing left to be done. Dr. Weir tells Caldwell that they have detected the Hive ship coming to the base, and they verify again that it's just the one, but that's still bad news.
Yeah. On Tyrannus, ShRRT is running around the tunnels as best he can, trying to find a way to get to Taylor and Ronan, or at least hear from them, but he's got nothing. He's running into a problem where not only are tunnels collapsed, but also behind closed doors, they can feel the heat and probably don't open that because lava.
Yeah. Yeah, support beams are hot.
Yeah.
It's bad.
He radios to Rodney to let him know he's found the last group of villagers that he's going to be able to find, and they're trying to get back to the ship at this point. He says the base itself is going into an emergency lockdown, so doors are rightly shutting because lava.
Yes. It's not just the floor that's lava in this building.
Yeah. Rodney offers to have Narita find the base schematics to see if they can find a way, but they are cut off from one another when another earthquake hits, and they lose communication. So sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up on the Daedalus, we're with Hermiad. He's attempting to calculate the precise time remaining before the main eruption. Ronan, who's hanging out on the bridge, asks if they should try to land. Maybe they'll have better luck finding people that way. But the surface is too unstable. Hermiad says there's no way that there wouldn't be anything to land on, basically. So the option is to sit here and wait, or they can leave. Hermiad is all for leaving, but Caldwell says that they are not going to consider that. So I'm glad that he
at least
doesn't go along with Hermiad's wish.
Oh, Hermiad.
Down underground, ShRRT is still trying to shepherd the refugees. He's starting to smell sulfur dioxide, so they've got to hurry. He tells them to stay close and calm and try not to breathe too deeply.
In the Orion control room, Rodney continues to work. Narina tries to radio to ShRRT, but still not getting through. Beckett comes in and asks if they've had any luck, but she says no. Rodney says there's too much interference and there's a lot of electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere. This baby's ready to blow, he says. Beckett reports everyone's on board except for the group with ShRRT, and they haven't heard word one from Taylor and Ronan, but we know they're okay.
We do.
So Rodney's like, all right, getting back to work. ShRRT continues to try to shepherd the group. They've reached a door that he's hoping will be the hangar door. They pry the door open, and yeah, they've made it back.
Woo.
So they're going to get in the ship. Good job,
Yes.
ShRRT.
They made it. I hope they close the door behind them, though, because
That would be
lava.
smart.
I don't know if they can, given that they had to force it open.
Yeah. ShRRT living up to the name.
Indeed. Then we're in the control room. Rodney is telling people to get down on the floor and secure themselves because he thinks the eruption is imminent. And then ShRRT comes in. Everybody is very relieved to see him there. Rodney wants to know what took so long. But ShRRT doesn't answer that and asks what Rodney was getting ready for, and Rodney is planning to activate the shields. Because the blast from the eruption would wipe out half the continent, so their only chance is to maybe try to activate the shields and protect themselves from the lava. It will last for 4.1 seconds, which is not a whole lot. ShRRT doesn't understand why activating shields for 4 seconds would be at all helpful, but it's because Rodney is in his Rodney head and hasn't actually explained his entire plan to them. His plan is to wait for the eruption and then use that eruption to basically, since they will be sitting in the middle of the lava, get themselves ejected into space. He's going to open a hyperspace window. Hopefully he can get the timing just right for activating shields and getting them ejected into space. And yeah, that's it. He's going to try to activate a hyperspace window while also activating those shields. And hopefully all of that will keep them protected from the lava while the lava takes care of the fact that they have no engines. ShRRT tells Rodney, that plan sucks. But it's better than no plan.
It's true.
Yeah. And he does mutter to himself, it's probably not going to work. So don't thank me till it works. But yeah, I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
Dr. Beckett thinks it's clever, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the Daedalus, Hermiad has an exact moment when the eruption's going to occur in 52 seconds. He's pretty sure.
Yeah.
Rodney's continuing to work on the Orion while the rest of them are just kind of like watching because there's nothing else he can do. He hurts himself. He bent his fingernail back, he says, and he shows them by giving them the finger, and it's very funny. And
I didn't even notice what finger it was that he was showing him, so I don't know how I managed to miss that.
I mean, I like, was that in the script or was David Hewlett just being funny? I don't know. Anyway.
I tend to think it was probably just David Hewlett being funny.
It was pretty... I was like, wait, because I'm watching it. I'm like, wait a minute. What? Whoa. I'm going to back that up. Yeah, no, he's giving them the finger. That's pretty funny. They're like, yeah, so sorry you're hurt, but maybe get back to work. He continues asking for nail clippers and trying to show them his wound, but they're like, no, get back to work. Go. So he keeps working. He's got the hyperdrive ready, he says. Their inertial damperings are engaged. They've got shields. They're ready. They're ready for this.
As ready as they will ever be.
Hermiad says there's 40 seconds.
Yeah. ShRRT gets on the intercom system and tells everybody to get their chair and seat backs in their upright and locked positions, trying to be funny here. Not that any of them would have any understanding of what his reference was. So nice try at lightening the situation, but I doubt that it worked very much.
No, it probably just confused some already confused folks.
Yeah. They're trying to figure out exactly how long they have until the eruption happens, but unlike Hermiad, they have no idea. Rodney says that don't hold your breath. It could happen anytime in the next half hour. So that's got to be a little bit nerve-wracking that Rodney just has to wait and hope that he gets the timing just right for when the eruption happens and hope that he doesn't overreact to a tremor rather than the actual eruption itself.
Yeah.
But things outside are not looking good. So I guess they're going to take the fact that there are more and more vents of steam and lava coming up around them as a sign that the eruption is actually imminent. And outside, we do see that the caldera is starting to erupt. Hermiad, up on the Daedalus, counts down from 5. And when he gets to 1, the floor of the hangar explodes and the volcano starts erupting underneath the Orion. And the Orion blasts up into the air. Out in space, the Daedalus sees the explosion. And then all of a sudden, the Orion is there, flying out of a hyperspace window.
Ooh.
Yeah. Beckett is shocked that it worked. Rodney is sitting there at the controls looking like he's also shocked that it worked. Norina asks if he's okay. I'm like, and he's like, yeah, I'm good. Everything's fine. Caldwell cautiously calls out on the radio saying it's the Daedalus. Are there any survivors aboard? And ShRRT answers, yeah, we've got a lot of passengers here. So everybody on the Daedalus cheers and shakes hands. Taylor and Ronan are delighted. Everyone is happy.
Yeah. And then they all get back to Atlantis at some point because next we are in the conference room with Team ShRRT and Weir and Dr. Beckett. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just recapping what happened. Rodney says the explosion was extremely destructive, just as he feared, and the ash cloud has covered the entire planet, and the Tyrannan will not be able to go home for many years. Dr. Weir reports they found a planet that Lycus likes, so they're gonna send people to that planet instead of them staying in Atlantis, which is probably good for them because we'd probably never hear from them again. They'd probably been disappeared somewhere in that city.
Probably, but also there's a Wraith ship on the way, so.
There is also a Wraith ship on the way. Rodney's planning to take a repair team back to the Orion ship to work on the engines. ShRRT's like, didn't you tell Norina you couldn't fix it? And he was like, yeah, it wasn't a question of whether or not I could. It was just, timing, obviously. Dr. Weir would like him to do that as quickly as possible. The Chancellor, she says, is letting them use the ship in exchange for their help. There is still a hive ship along the way, they report. They still don't know why they're only sending this time just one hive ship, when last time they sent so many. If there was 3, I think. So they speculate, are they just coming to make sure we're here or what? But, it's cool. They've got another ship now, so maybe that'll be okay. We've gotten more drones, so that's also a point in our favor. But they are still working on just having one ZPM, and they're not going to be able to pull the same disappearing trick they did last time.
Nope.
And Dr. Weir finishes with, it's not going to be enough, but it's all we got. End of episode.
Yeah.
Setting up that season finale.
Indeed. Did you like the episode?
I did like the episode. I just thought it was just a fun, interesting, standalone, trying to solve problems and save people episode. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was just a solid episode, I thought. How about you?
I had a migraine all day when I watched this episode, so I had a ton of trouble focusing on it, even though I was feeling better. So I think it was a good episode, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I would have if I wasn't in a shitty mood and still feeling like migraine hungover because even when my head stops hurting, I still have trouble concentrating and feel grumpy. So yes, I think it was a good episode. I should probably have rewatched it to see if I liked it any better, but I didn't have time. So
things happen. Yeah.
Recapping it, I'm like, oh, this was an interesting episode. But while I was watching it, I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I can't follow any of this, and had to rewatch several scenes.
Oh.
Yeah, it was annoying.
What are we going to talk about next?
Next is Stargate SG-1 Season 9, Episode 20, which this time is the last episode of the season. Camelot.
Camelot.
According to TVDB, SG-1 discovers the village of Camelot on an alien world and must face Merlin's security system when they go in search of an ancient weapon. Elsewhere, Earth and its allies assemble a fleet when a working Ori supergate is discovered.
Ooh.
You get the booklet that I have buried in fidgets throughout the course of this episode. I had unburied it at the beginning of the recording and then reburied it with all of the fidgets I've been playing with during the recording. According to the booklet, as the Ori attack looms closer, Mitchell and Daniel race to locate a device that will obliterate the enemy once and for all. Just Mitchell and Daniel?
That's it?
Okay.
Wow. Who needs Carter? God.
Yeah.
What
or
the
Teal.
fuck? Yeah.
Screw those guys.
Okay. Two somewhat different feeling descriptions there.
Indeed.
One much more descriptive than the other.
Yes.
Yeah. Is Daniel and Mitchell the new can Jack do this thing
I think so.
of
yes.
the booklet?
Yes. When the booklet was only ever talking about Jack saving the day or Jack needing to do a thing when it was clearly all of SG-1 that was working on it. Yes, I do think that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Thank you so much for listening to Stargatesing with Kathy and Mary. Our fully listener-supported program couldn't be done without you. Show your support by telling everyone you know how awesome this show is. Find us at stargatesing.space. Reach us by email, stargatesing@gmail.com. Find us on social media at Blue Sky. Get some merch, tinyurl/stargatesing. And finally, show your financial support at patreon.com/stargatesing. Thank you for traveling through the gate with us. Catch you next time on Stargatesing with Kathy and Mary.
I'm Kathy.
I'm Mary.
And you've been listening to Stargatesing. The end.
The end.
Woo! Anyway, sorry, that's not monstrous at all.